Erik Ainge is a host of The Erik Ainge Show on 99.1 The Sports Animal, weekdays from 9 to noon. He is not a client of Tennessee Wealth Management, but is compensated to both promote and co-host the Organized Investor Show.
Hello, Knoxville, and welcome. This is the Organized Investor Show brought to you by Tennessee Wealth Management. I'm Erik Ainge, and you can listen to me on The Sports Animal weekdays 9 to noon. But you know, I'm usually talking football, basketball, and everything in between sports, college sports. But on the weekends, we tackle a completely different kind of game, the financial game. And folks, today's show is one you absolutely do not want to miss. We're going to talk about things that could be silently destroying your retirement right now with you not even knowing it. These are issues that catch people completely off guard, often when it's too late to do anything about them. But the good news is, once you know about them, you can do something about it to protect yourself and your family. All right, we got the full team in studio today. We are East Tennessee's Financial Four. First, our Dean of College Knowledge. We have Megan Hubbard, who has a master's degree in curriculum and instruction. That means she knows how to make hard things sample, is one way to say it. My beautiful wife, Susan Ainge, right here, studying for her Series 7 exam and giving us a real-world perspective, and that's fresh and what we need. And, of course, Jerry himself, the man, the myth, the legend, certified financial planner with 43 years of experience in the industry. He was a VP at Merrill Lynch, and honestly, the smartest person that I know when it comes to money. There's a caveat when it comes to money. And then, obviously, Jennifer helping us behind the glass as well.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today's theme affects almost every single person listening right now, whether they realize it or not. We're calling it the hidden time bombs in your retirement plan. Before anyone changes the station, this isn't fear-mongering, okay?
Better not.
They better not change the station, but we're also not here to just make you want to go hide under your bed and be concerned about things for the rest of your life. But these are real issues that catch people off guard every day, so we want to make sure you're aware of them. The good news is that once you know about these time bombs, you can diffuse them before they cause damage. Now, that's really what today's show is all about, giving you the knowledge to protect yourself and your family. We're going to cover 4 major issues that could be silently eroding your retirement security, and you might not even know it. We're going to give you the practical solutions for each one of these.
So what makes these time bombs so dangerous is that they don't hurt you today. You won't feel any pain this week or this month or even this year. They hurt you 5, 10, 15 years down the road when the damage is already done. And by then, it's often too late to reverse the damage no matter how hard you try. But here's the silver lining. If you learn about them now while you still have time, you can diffuse them. You can take action before they ever get a chance to go off. That's exactly what today's show is designed to help you do. We want to arm you with the information you need to protect your retirement.
We're covering 4 major time bombs: the IRA Tax Time Bomb, sequence of returns risk, Social Security timing mistakes, and long-term care exposure. Each one of these things can cost you tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're not prepared. But first, let's talk about performance. Well, the numbers tell the story better than anybody, guys. For 2025, our average client return was 36.3% net of all fees and costs. 36.3%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up to 13% during that same time period. The difference of over 23 percentage points in a single year. And folks, that's not luck. That's method, discipline. It's what happens when you have a real strategy.
So, Erik, it is really important to emphasize the fact that the returns, as you mentioned, these are net of any kind of fees, costs, expenses. And that actually ends up in the pocket of the clients every single day, okay? A lot of advisors will quote gross returns before fees, which makes it look better than it really actually is. So we believe complete transparency is important. So we always show you the real numbers. We also post those real numbers, our track record. We put them publicly on our website, theorganizedinvestor.com, where anybody can verify it, okay? You can actually see the last 4 digits of the account numbers that we put on there. We don't show the whole thing, obviously. So our clients can actually look at that and see their own numbers, okay? All 198 accounts, all shown, nothing cherry-picked, excluded to make the numbers look better, okay? We post these results. They're absolutely true. Now, I've always said that past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Everybody's pretty much aware of that. But a consistent track record over multiple years tells you something that's very important, okay? It tells you something about the method and the discipline behind the investment approach.
This isn't a one-year anomaly either, okay? The track record is consistent over multiple time periods. Over 3 years, our average annual return has been 19.3% compared to the 13.2% for the Dow. Over 5 years, it's been 13.3% annually versus just 9.4% for the Dow. And over 7 years, 16.7% annually versus 10.1% for the Dow. That kind of consistent outperformance doesn't happen by accident. It actually happens because of a disciplined approach and a clear strategy, which is what we have. It happens because of the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities when they arise. It happens because Jerry, my dad, and Jared, my husband, are completely focused on getting results for their clients.
What I love about this transparency is it forces real accountability. If you're considering any financial advisor, here's a question you should ask. Can I see your actual track record with real account numbers? If they can't show you real results from a real client accounts, you'd have to ask yourself, well, why not? And here's something else that really matters about how Jerry and Jared operate. They have their own personal retirement money invested identically to how they invest client accounts. So same stocks, same strategies, same decisions. And when your advisor's money is on the line right alongside yours, you tend to get different results.
They eat their own cooking, as Jerry likes to say. And no, even though Jerry doesn't eat his own cooking, he likes to buy food at restaurants.
People stay away from my cooking.
That's
He
good
made
for
some
every.
really bad corned beef a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Oh,
You just let it rest, Megan. It wasn't my fault.
I give it a try. Yeah. But we're talking about investments. Investments are the foundation. They're the bigger fish to fry anyway. Everything else builds on that foundation. All right, let's get into time bomb number 1, the IRA tax time bomb.
So exciting. So most Americans have been told their entire working lives to max out their 401k. If you're listening, you've probably heard that. Defer as much income as possible and let that money grow tax deferred for decades. It sounds like great advice. The money grows every year without being taxed along the way. Your employer might even match some of your contributions, which is essentially free money, right? But here's what nobody ever tells you about all of this. You're not actually avoiding those taxes. You're just postponing them to a future date. And when that bill finally comes due, often in retirement, when you can least afford it, it's a surprise. It can be devastating. This is the IRA Tax Time Bomb. It's sitting in millions of retirement accounts right now as we speak.
We need to get us an explosion sound effect, Eric. You can work on that for us.
Okay, I'm on it.
So here's exactly where it gets painful to people who really didn't plan ahead, who didn't see it coming. When you turn 73, you're required to start taking what are called RMDs, required minimum distributions. You have to take this money out whether you need it or not. I mean, you're just required. The government requires it, no choice in the matter. That distribution gets added directly to your taxable income for that particular year. And this can easily push you up into a significantly higher tax bracket than you were expecting. But it gets worse. It can also trigger something called IRMA, I-R-M-A-A. And this stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amounts. There's a nice mouthful, isn't it? So IRMA is not a girl, but an I-R-M-A-A means in plain English that your Medicare premiums can absolutely skyrocket. We had a client hit $15,000 of IRMA penalty because his IRA distribution pushed him over the threshold. He was completely shocked and had no idea the penalty even existed. And nobody at his previous advisor's firm had ever even mentioned this to him as a possibility.
And here's what makes IRMA especially cruel and frustrating. The Medicare premium surcharge is based on your income from 2 years ago, not your current income. You could have had a high income year, then retire and drastically reduce your income. But you'd still get hit with those higher premiums for 2 more years.
It's like being punished today for something that happened 2 years ago. These surcharges can add up to $6,000 or more per spouse at the higher income brackets. For a married couple, that's potentially $12,000 per year in extra Medicare costs. Nobody warns you about this trap until you've already fallen into it. Well, we are today. Jerry, what's the solution for people with a large traditional IRA? What can they actually do about this?
You know, before we go on, does IRMA sound like Hurricane Irma? That's what I would think comes to mind when I think of that name.
That kind of sounds hurricane-ish. Sounds pretty terrible.
Yeah, almost like a bomb. So the solution is to be strategic. Roth conversions, a Roth IRA conversion can spread this money out over multiple years. In other words, each year you convert a carefully calculated portion, that's a kind of a mouthful, of your traditional IRA into a Roth IRA. So yes, you pay the taxes on that conversion now, but there's a crucial difference here. You control exactly when and how much you convert to that Roth IRA. So the goal is to fill up your current tax bracket all the way to the top without spilling over into the next bracket, okay? So think of it like filling a bucket to the brim, but not letting it overflow. you're moving money from a taxable bucket into a tax-free bucket. And everything in that Roth IRA grows tax-free, comes out tax-free for you and even your heirs.
So let me put this in specific dollar terms because the numbers really do matter. Say you have $1 million traditional IRA and you're in the 22% federal tax bracket. Under the Secure Act, non-spouse heirs must distribute the entire inherited IRA within 10 years. Within 10 years, they have to get all of that money out. If your children inherit in their peak earning years, the 32% to 40% bracket, the family could pay $400,000 in taxes. That is a lot of money. That is $400,000 that went straight to Uncle Sam instead of your grandchildren. We call my dad Dodd. Dodd's grandchildren would not be happy about that. But if you do strategic conversions while you're alive at your lower 22% rate, you change everything. You could reduce the total family tax bill by $150,000 to $200,000. That sounds much better, right? That's real money staying in your family instead of going to Washington.
But Megan, at least the government's does a good job with that money that we send them, right?
Okay, let's not make this a political show.
So here's how we like to explain it in a way that really makes it click. Your traditional IRA isn't just your retirement savings. It's actually your largest outstanding debt. The only difference is that you don't get a monthly bill reminding you about it. The government is your silent partner, patiently waiting to collect their share. The question every person needs to answer is this. Do you want to settle that debt on your own terms or at a tax rate you choose? Or do you just want Uncle Sam to settle it on his terms, probably at a much higher rate? That's really what Roth conversions are all about, taking control.
I like that framing. Your IRA as your largest debt. That's good. That clicked for me too. It completely changes how you think about your retirement accounts. All right, now let's get to, I like this part. Let's get to the 4 get 1 frees here. Genuinely valuable items that we provide completely free when you come meet with us.
So first, on the 4 free ones, we provide a completely free Morningstar report that analyzes your current investment situation. Now, this is an independent institutional quality analysis. It has over 100 pages long at times, based kind of on how much you have in those accounts. It shows exactly what you own, what you're paying in fees, and how you're actually performing, how those investments have been doing. You get a plain English explanation from us as to where all of this stands. Next, we're going to give you a free Envision cash flow analysis if you're in the mood and feel you need this. This is a very sophisticated projection that shows whether you actually are on track for the kind of a retirement that you're wanting to have. It factors in all these fun things like taxes, inflation, Social Security timing, and isn't that fun? And then realistic spending, like how much are you going to spend on that vacation when you are retired? You can actually see where you're headed financially. Third, we offer free estate planning documents through our online partner called care..You'll. And then fourth, Eric's going to give you a personally autographed signed Tennessee football with a display so it doesn't roll off and hit something. So we call these our Get 4 free ones. No cost, no obligation, no catch, if I may make a quarterback pun there.
Better catch it.
Right, and you receive 4 genuinely valuable items just coming to meet us. Have a chat with us.
And you know why? Because you're our Mary Jerry Goodman.
Absolutely.
Goodwill Goodman.
I want to spend some time on that estate planning offer because it's truly exceptional. We have a partnership and subscription with an online company called care..You'll. This partnership gives us unlimited access to their complete estate planning platform. When we say unlimited, that means we can help 23 people do this over the course of a year, or it can be 823, and there's no additional cost to us. And there's never a cost to our clients and our radio show listeners, ever. We're doing this for free. We truly mean that. We say this on the air and we tell people this in person, and still we get asked the question, but how much does it cost? Okay, so one more time. It's free. Hopefully.
There's a catch.
There's no catch. No catch.
Megan, did you say free?
It's free. So that all means we can now offer these documents to radio listeners and not just our current clients because it is free and we're able to extend that to our listeners. This includes your will, your power of attorney, healthcare directive, everything you need. These are the same documents that might cost you several $1,000s at an attorney's office. Not might, probably. It's very likely that this is going to cost you several thousands of dollars. And we're offering them completely free. There's that word again, to anyone who calls us. You just have to give us a call to get started because obviously we can't help you if you don't call us.
And one thing Megan didn't mention, that can also include a revocable living trust if someone's so inclined to go that route. It'll cover anything that you want in terms of what you're going to need to get all these documents taken care of. Now, here's something that most people don't realize about estate planning and how it actually works. Every attorney on the planet creates estate planning document by editing existing templates, okay? They do word replacement, putting your information in the standard template document, taking away somebody else's. Nobody writes these documents from scratch anymore. It's all template-based. This trust and will document relationship that we have with this company, these are all professionally drafted, legally valid in all 50 states. They're created using the same exact template approach that attorneys use, just through a much more efficient online platform. And again, we're happy to help you get started, answer any questions that you have, but we do need to spend some time helping you fill out the questionnaire to kind of help you get started. But there's no charge at all to do this.
What's really powerful is with Trust and Will, you can actually upload your documents to them and they'll use artificial intelligence to analyze your existing documents. So if you already have estate documents, you can upload them and get feedback. AI will give you suggestions on what you might want to update or change. It's like getting a second opinion on your estate plan and completely free.
What?
In our experience, probably 95% of people can use Trust and Will documents and be perfectly fine. They cover the vast majority of situations people find themselves in. If you have a complicated situation, though, so blended family, business assets, we can help. We'll introduce you to a very good local attorney for a reasonable flat fee.
And I want to emphasize, all of this is without any cost or obligation whatsoever. We're having fun saying it. It actually is. The estate documents, the Morningstar report, the Envision analysis, all completely free.
And the football.
And the football. I was hoping you'd say that. You do have to give us a call to get started, though. That's how everything starts. It's super easy. You call 865-415-2070. That'll go straight to Jerry's cell phone. You also can do this by going online to theorganizedinvestor.com. And so far, all of these conversations we're having with people listening that are reaching out to us, it's been awesome.
So, time for a story. I'm, a former first grade teacher, and so I love story time.
Gather around the table, kids.
It's the carpet. We're going to sit around on the carpet. Anyways, there was a gentleman named Harold, and he came to see us about 6 months ago. And Harold is 69 years old, so cute, just a sweet little man that you'd want to put in your pocket. He spent his entire 40-year career working as a pharmacist. Every single day for 4 decades, he stood behind that counter counseling patients about their health care. He wanted to take care of people. That was his job. That was his gift. He told patients to monitor their blood pressure, check their cholesterol regularly. He reminded them constantly to get their annual screenings done on time. Prevention, prevention, prevention. That was his professional mantra for 40 years. But when it came to his own investment portfolio, he admitted he'd never done a real financial checkup.
So little Harold had accumulated about $1.2 million. It was spread over multiple accounts from different employers over the years. Now, he had just assumed everything was fine because the quarterly statements consistently showed some positive numbers. It continued to go up, but not at exactly a great rate. So we ran a Morningstar analysis, and we discovered something that really surprised and both disappointed him. His average return had been about 6% a year for the last 5 years. Now, 6% sounds like a decent return on the surface until you compare what could have been earned. During that exact same 5-year period, the Dow Jones Industrial Average returned over 9% annually, okay? Over that same 5-year period, our clients had realized 13.3% per year, which is more than double what he had gotten off from his return. So what he realized from his investments was literally half of what our clients had experienced. And we have the entire 9-page track record, complete with partial account numbers on the website, theorganizedinvestor.com. And what this means, it meant Harold had left hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table without even knowing it.
What struck me most about Harold was his reaction when he finally saw those numbers laid out clearly. He sat there just processing what the reporter was showing him. But then he said something I'll never forget. I spent my entire career telling patients to get checkups, and I couldn't even follow my own advice when it came to my own finances. But then Harold showed real wisdom and maturity about the situation. He said he was genuinely grateful to finally know the truth, even though it was painful to hear. So yeah, he couldn't change the past 5 years, but he could absolutely change the next 5 years. And that positive attitude is exactly what separates people who improve their situation from those who just complain.
You can't diffuse a time bomb if you don't know it's there, right? You got to know the problem. You got to diagnose the issue. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about Our next one, sequence of returns risk. You know, sometimes we say these names and I'm like, oh, that sounds okay. But then you get into it and I'm like, oh my gosh.
Have you ever said those 4 words together in your entire
Sequence of returns risk. Not in that sequence. I haven't, but I can't wait to talk about it. So stay right here with us on the Organized Investor Show, News Talk 98.7.
For more than 50 years, families, businesses, and neighbors have trusted one name to make life's biggest moments unforgettable: Rose's Catering. Family owned, locally grown, serving this community since 1971. And now, Rose's is taking hospitality to new heights. Literally, inside the iconic Sunsphere, Knoxville's shining symbol from the 1982 World's Fair. Introducing Sunsphere Events. 2 breathtaking floors of panoramic views, elegant gatherings, and the warmth only Rose's can provide. Whether it's a wedding in the sky, a corporate reception, or a celebration with friends, Rose's and Sunsphere Events bring people together beautifully. Visit rosescatering.com or sunsphereevents.com to plan your next unforgettable event. Rose's Catering, a Knoxville tradition since 1971. Erik Ainge is a host of the Erik Ainge Show on 99.1 The Sports Animal, weekdays from 9 to noon. He is not a client of Tennessee Wealth Management, but is compensated to both promote and co-host the Organized Investor Show.
Welcome back to the Organized Investor Show, guys and gals. I'm Erik Ainge here with my wife, Susan, and Megan Hubbard, and Jerry Goodman, who I really like my last nickname for him, Mary Jerry. He's our Mary Jerry. We're East Tennessee's Financial Four. In this show, we're talking about the hidden time bombs in people's retirement. In the first segment, we talked about Harold. He's the pharmacist who spent 40 years telling patients to get checkups, but never checked his own portfolio. He discovered he'd left hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table over 5 years without having any idea. Now we move on to the next thing to worry about, which is referred to as, the now second time I've said it, the sequence of returns risk. This might be the most dangerous time bomb of all for people entering retirement. Megan, can you start by explaining sequence of returns risk and what that means in quarterback football dummy English?
Don't mess it up, Megan.
I will try. All right. So sequence of returns risk, that in and of itself is a mouthful, but it is the risk that significant market downturns happen at the worst possible time. The worst possible time is right when you retire and start taking regular withdrawals. Here's why the timing matters so much. When you were young, a market crash was actually almost a gift in disguise. But when you're in your 20s and 30s, you have decades to recover from any losses that you might gain. You're buying stocks at lower prices with every paycheck. That's called dollar cost averaging. Now, time was completely on your side back then, but everything changes once you reach retirement.
And once you start withdrawing money to live on instead of adding money, a crash in your first few years might be devastating. It can permanently impair your portfolio in ways you simply cannot recover from. The math is brutal and unforgiving. Most people don't understand how it works until it's too late. So let's walk you through specific numbers because people need to see this math. Imagine you retire with exactly $1 million and you plan to withdraw $50,000 per year. Year 1, the market drops 10%. Your million becomes $900,000. You take out $50,000 for living expenses, leaving you with $850,000.
So year 2, another 10% market drop. Your $850,000 shrinks to $765,000. Take out your $50,000 for expenses. Now you're down to $715,000. Year 3, down 10% again, $643,000 before your withdrawals. After taking the $50,000, now you're down to $593,000. A lot of numbers, but 3 years into your retirement, you've lost 40% of everything you've built over your career, okay? Now, here's what breaks people's hearts when they actually understand how this works. Say the market comes roaring back with 3 consecutive 20% gains. That is absolutely a phenomenal performance, but keep in mind that you're still withdrawing the $50,000 every year.
So after year 6, 3 terrible years followed by 3 phenomenal years, you do the math. You still have $157,000 less than what you started with. The sequence of when those returns happened literally destroyed your retirement. The order mattered more than the average. That's devastating to hear laid out that way. 3 down years followed by 3 huge years averages to a positive return, but you still lost a massive chunk of retirement savings because you were taking withdrawals. That's completely counterintuitive. I would have assumed it would balance out, personally. Here's the key insight that most people miss. If those exact same 6 returns happened in reverse order, you'd have $148,000. Same returns, just different order, completely different outcome. If the positive years happen first, you'd be much better off. The sequence matters as much as the average return over that time.
And unfortunately, this is not something you can control, and it's not something most financial advisors ever even talk about with their clients. Most advisors just put you in some standard asset allocation and hope things work out. You'll end up invested in 15 to 20 mutual funds that each may own several hundred stocks. So you now own several thousand companies, which means you own virtually every stock on the planet. You are now so diversified, over-diversified, you're suffering from what we call diversification.
Dun, dun, dun.
That means your returns are going to be just a mathematical average of the entire stock market. And the market average is by definition average. That's not what people think they're paying for when they ask an advisor to help.
If you're invested in a mutual fund advisory account, you're probably getting a mediocre return of around 9% before any advisory fee has been deducted. And that would probably drop to about 8% after that fee is taken. We actually have an example of this type of mutual fund advisory account on the investments page of our website that is exactly what we just described. The average returns are because it's not only over-diversified into thousands of stocks, the internal cost buried inside of all those funds is 0.79%. That means someone with $1 million invested in the same advisory account is paying $7,900 per year just for the internal fees.
And in contrast, our 7-year track record is 16.7% per year after any type of fee, cost, expense, any of that. So it's almost double return of what a lot of people are getting from, say, these mutual fund types of advisory accounts. In addition to the better return, our clients basically have experienced less volatility with our strategy. So our core holdings are basically owning individual dividend growth stocks. These are large, well-managed companies. You actually know and understand most of them. Companies like Costco, Walmart, Home Depot, Lowe's, probably heard a few of those, General Dynamics, Smuckers, Becton Dickinson, to name a few more.
And these are the household names with proven track records of rewarding shareholders. They have a long history of raising their dividends over long periods of time. Like Lowe's, for example, has raised its dividend for over 60 consecutive years. Through recessions, through market crashes, through pandemics, they've increased their dividend every single year for 6 decades, taking care of their shareholders. That kind of consistency doesn't happen by accident. It has to have a disciplined management and a strong business model. These stocks come from the DSIP list, Wells Fargo Diversified Stock Income Plan, DSIP. For short, that strategy has a 30-year track record averaging over 12% annually. Because investors view these companies as well-managed and financially stable, their stock prices tend to hold up better during market downturns. Back in the Great Financial Crisis, 2008, the S&P 500 index dropped 51% more than this DSIP list did.
And the reason this is so important is because you have the opportunity to move your money from companies that have not dropped as much into the areas that have dropped a lot more. When the market drops 20%, these quality companies might only drop 10% or maybe even 12%. You want to own companies that can weather any storm, not ones that crumble at the first sign of trouble.
And avoiding losses is very important because the math for a gain and a loss, they work differently. If you have a stock that drops 50% in value and it goes from $100 down to $50, a 50% gain only gets it back to $75. After the 50% drop, it now has to double in value to get back to where it started. So you need to be careful about losses in your portfolio, particularly when you're just starting retirement.
And not only have these dividend growth stocks had a lot of appreciation, they also pay a dividend. And historically, those dividends have been increasing about 10% every year. That means whatever your quarterly dividend is when you first start in this investment strategy, mathematically, your dividend income will literally double in about 7 years. So if you'd like to know how the stocks on this DSIP list have averaged about 12% per year for that 30-year period, probably 10% was from appreciation. The other 2% was from the dividend.
And the fact that these companies can increase the dividend each and every year is exactly why investors are not as quick to sell them during the market downturn. Guys like Jerry and Jared, the ones that are doing it right, which is Jerry and Jared. So investing in these dividend growth stocks is our core strategy. It's the bread and butter, if you will. It's the base from which we work.
The second strategy we use is called bargain opportunities. When markets panic and quality stocks go on sale, we buy aggressively. During the COVID crash in March of 2020, the banking crisis in spring of 2023, and the tariff scare of 2025, while everyone else was running for the exits, we were shopping. One of my favorite things to do. During that tariff scare last spring, Jerry, my dad, and Jared, my husband, made over 12,500 trades in a single day.
Busy little day.
Yeah, I can't imagine if I made 12,500 transactions on the credit card in a day.
You just tell us they were on sale, though.
No, I'd be shut down for sure. You simply cannot do that when you're stuck, though, in mutual funds waiting for some committee to decide what to do.
And by the time a mutual fund manager gets approval to make a move, well, the opportunity is usually gone. That flexibility to act quickly during market volatility is a huge competitive advantage. Most investors panic during market drops. They sell at the worst possible time. But if you have the discipline and the process to buy quality when it's on sale, those drops become opportunities.
And that 36.3% return in 2025, it wasn't despite the market volatility. It was partly because of it. See, these bargain opportunity trades during, let's say, the tariff scare generated significant gains, when the market finally recovered.
All right, I'm calling a different play. We're shifting gears here. Let's talk about Social Security timing. This is another area where most people leave tremendous money on the table. I mean, that's what we're talking about here, right? Helping. Jerry, you've said proper optimization can add $50,000 to $100,000 or more in lifetime benefits. I've heard you say that. How can the timing decision possibly make that much difference? Your Social Security benefit grows by 8% every year until you're 70. That's a guaranteed 8% annual return just for being patient. You can't get that kind of guaranteed return anywhere else in the financial world, not without taking on significant investment risk.
But most people's knee-jerk reaction is to actually claim the benefits as early as possible at age 62. They convince themselves that they want to get their money before the rules change. Mathematically speaking, claiming early is almost always the wrong decision for healthy people. The person who waits until they're 70 catches up in their early 80s and makes more for life. Here's another important factor about Social Security that people overlook. Social Security has cost of living adjustments, so automatic inflation protection is what that is. Your pension from a former employer probably doesn't have that feature.
Nope.
And that fixed pension payment actually buys less every year as prices rise. That's less gifts for your daughter.
Daughters.
Well, Meredith can speak for herself. I'm worried about me.
20 years from now, that $2,000 monthly pension will buy what $1,200 buys today. But your Social Security at least attempts to keep pace with rising costs. That's why maximizing Social Security through proper timing is so critical. It's inflation-protected lifetime income that you cannot outlive. One of the best pieces of advice that we can give you about Social Security is surprisingly simple. Before you make any decision about when to claim, schedule an appointment with your local Social Security Administration office.
And don't just walk in, actually set an appointment so you can actually sit down with somebody who knows the system inside and out. These are people who work with Social Security rules every single day. We see too often that people basically are making these knee-jerk decisions about Social Security without even giving any kind of guidance at all. As Erik kind of mentioned to this, they turn 62, they just start taking benefits because they can. Or a friend tells them, what they did, so they assume that must be right for them as well. But everyone's situation is different. Your work history, your spouse's benefits, your health, and your other sources of income.
The Social Security Administration can show you exactly what your benefits will be at different claiming ages. They can explain spousal benefits, survivor benefits, and how your decision affects your husband or wife. This information is free and it comes directly from that source. There's no reason to guess when you can get the actual numbers from the people who are going to be writing your checks. All right, remember our 4 get 1 frees, guys. Free Morningstar report, free envision analysis, free estate planning documents, and a signed football from moi. No cost, no obligation, no catch. You just have to catch it. If you ask me to throw it to you, I'm going to do it.
Throw it easy.
You got to catch it. Start off super easy, guys. Call 865-415-2070. That'll go straight to Jerry, our Mary Jerry Goodman, or just go to the website, theorganizedinvestor.com.
And we encourage our clients to summarize all of this information, and we have a tool to help you do this. So on the Affairs page of our website, you can open up an electronic copy of the Organized Investor Workbook. This is a 30-page editable PDF that you'll fill out and save on your computer. And also print this off for your family so that they can have a place to start when you do unfortunately pass away. It includes personal information, personal contacts, professional contacts, bank and credit card information, social media account passwords, what your wishes are for your funeral arrangements, things that you probably don't really want to think about, but are important to talk about, to note somewhere so that your family knows what your wishes are. This is a simple, clear document listing all the accounts, the contacts, and the critical instructions that you're going to want to leave them with. I mean, Dad's probably got one somewhere. Not that Meredith and I are going to actually...
Or you just make up your own.
But what if
funeral arrangements? That's our thing.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, what if someone's such a huge Tennessee fan that they were like, my kids suck. I should just leave it all to Erik and Susan. They should call you, right, Jerry?
No questions.
Again, you can fill it out on your computer, but nobody will ever find it there. So you need to print it out and make sure your family knows where it's located. Folks, please do your spouse a favor and do this summary. It can save them heartache during the absolute hardest times of their lives. Creating that roadmap is one of the most important things we can do. It's a key part of getting people truly organized for their future.
And you guys do that, and that's free. It's important to put out there. Like that. This is what Tennessee Wealth Management's doing. That's not what makes Tennessee Wealth Management money.
But Erik, this workbook here is actually on the website. They don't need us. They can literally go there and download it themselves.
Even better.
Even
better. All right, when we come back, it's our final segment for this show. We're going to tackle long-term care. This is the risk that can literally wipe out everything you've saved. And Jerry's going to explain the two-legged table. Well, it sounds like a dance move you did in the 70s. That'll change how you think about the protection. Don't go anywhere.
At the Grimes Agency with Goosehead Insurance, everything starts with one goal: putting clients first. The team is committed to adding value, providing clarity, and ensuring every client feels confident in their coverage and price. As a true brokerage, the Grimes Agency shops your insurance with over 30 A-rated companies, including Progressive, Farmers, Travelers, Nationwide, Liberty Mutual, and many more, so we can make sure you have great coverage at the most competitive rate. From home, auto, umbrella, and dwelling to life and jewelry insurance, they offer personalized protection for what matters most. With honesty, transparency, and a client-first approach, this is insurance the way you always wished it was done. Call Mike Grimes at 865-281-1267 or visit www.tn.insure to compare real quotes in minutes. The Grimes Agency with Goosehead. Insurance the way you always wished it was done.
Erik Ainge is a host of The Erik Ainge Show on 99.1 The Sports Animal, weekdays from 9 to noon. He is not a client of Tennessee Wealth Management, but is compensated to both promote and co-host the Organized Investor Show.
Welcome back to our final segment of this edition of the Organized Investor Show, brought to you by Tennessee Wealth Management. I'm Ainge. I'm here with the other Ainge, Susan Ainge, Megan Hubbard, and Jerry Goodman, East Tennessee's Financial Four. We've been talking all morning about hidden time bombs lurking in retirement plans. We've covered the IRA Tax Time Bomb, sequence of returns risk, and how to reduce your volatility. Now we're tackling the final time bomb. And honestly, this one might be the scariest. We were talking about it during the break. This is long-term care exposure. This is the risk that can literally wipe out absolutely everything you've saved. Megan, give us some numbers on what we're dealing with here.
I know this is such an uplifting conversation, right?
We need like some drab music in the dun dun
Exactly.
dun. There's one Michael Myers.
Oh, there you go. That would work. So here are some hard numbers that everyone listening should probably write down. Nursing home costs right here in Tennessee typically run $8,000 to $10,000 per month. Per month. That's roughly $100,000 to $120,000 per year. Every year you need that level of care. And those costs keep going up, just like everything else does, every year faster than regular inflation. In more expensive states like New York, New Jersey, California, it's even worse. You're looking at $15,000 to $18,000 per month, over $200,000 per year. The average nursing home stay runs 2 to 3 years. though many people need care longer than that even. We're talking $200,000 to $500,000 or more in total expenses for just one person. Dad, it's looking good for you. I'm thinking you're moving in with me.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
And here's the stat that should really get everyone's attention. The probability that at least one person in a married couple will need long-term care is about 70%. So let that sink in. 70% probability. That's not might happen to some unlucky people. That's probably will happen to most couples.
So 7 out of every 10 married couples are going to face this type of challenge at some point, okay? Yet the vast majority of people have absolutely no plan in place whatsoever. Many assume Medicare is going to cover their long-term nursing home care. Unfortunately, the truth is Medicare doesn't cover long-term custodial care. Medicaid may cover, say, part of the first hospital stay, maybe 100 days max, but only under very specific certain medical conditions. After that brief window closes, you're completely on your own. That is one of the most common misconceptions in retirement planning that people have. So here's what happens. Under Medicaid rules, if one spouse goes into a nursing home, say that spouse who stays at home gets to keep one whole car, just one vehicle, okay, maybe $25,000 to $30,000 in other countable assets. Everything else has to go to pay for that nursing home until it's completely exhausted. So I call this a kind of devastating situation, the two-legged table in a sense. Before any health crisis, a retirement couple has this four-legged stool supporting that lifestyle. Leg 1 is the husband's Social Security check. Leg 2 is the wife's Social Security check.
Leg 3 is pension or investment income. Leg 4 is their accumulated savings. 4 solid legs, stable and secure. But after one spouse goes into nursing care without protection, everything is going to change. The surviving spouse at home is suddenly standing on a two-legged table. Seems pretty dangerous, right? They have their one Social Security check and whatever small savings Medicaid allowed them to keep. You know what happens to a table with only 2 legs, don't you? Anybody?
It falls over?
Yeah, you are right. It falls over.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's what happens. It falls over. That's spousal impoverishment, and it destroys families every day.
The visual of a two-legged table falling over, that'll stick with me. All right, so what's the solution then for protecting these families against this risk? Is the answer to just buy long-term care insurance like the TV commercials when I'm watching SportsCenter at 3 o'clock in the morning tell me to do?
Exactly. Insurance is certainly an option, but some people ask about Medicaid planning or asset protection trust to try to shelter that money from these nursing home costs. Now, you may have heard about transferring assets to qualify for Medicaid coverage. I want to be very clear and direct about this. This is not an approach that we typically are going to recommend for our clients, okay? For most people listening to this show, it simply doesn't work the way they think it might, okay? Here's the reality. If you've saved reasonably and you have some sort of meaningful assets in your life, basically that means you have too much money forever to qualify for this Medicaid planning to be effective.
And the states have made it increasingly difficult to qualify for Medicaid coverage. They've tightened the rules specifically because the system was being used by people who didn't truly need it. Medicaid was designed as a safety net for people who genuinely cannot afford care, not as an estate planning tool.
And honestly, let's think about this from a fairness perspective. Nursing home expenses are essentially your cost of living, your room, your meals, your daily care. Why should the taxpayers of Tennessee be responsible for covering your living expenses, especially if the goal is just so you can leave a larger inheritance to your children or your grandchildren? The money you saved over your lifetime was meant to take care of you, and that includes taking care of you if you need help. Using that money for your own care isn't a failure. It's exactly what savings are for. You got an issue, you solve that issue. The real planning question isn't how to hide assets from the nursing home. It's how to make sure your spouse is protected and your money lasts as long as you need it.
And that's where proper income planning and the right insurance solutions come into play. We focus on protecting the healthy spouse from impoverishment through legitimate planning strategies. We look at hybrid life insurance policies that include long-term care benefits. These approaches actually work for people who have saved responsibly throughout their lives. Our average client return was 36.3% net of fees compared to 13% for the Dow. That's real money that can help plan for all of these risks we are now talking about. But all that investment growth doesn't matter if you lose everything to a nursing home. That's exactly why comprehensive planning addresses all these issues together.
Let me share one final story that really captures what all of this is truly about. So a gentleman named Richard came to see us when he was 73 years old. For years, I mean literally years, Richard had talked about taking his grandchildren to Washington, D.C. He wanted to show them the monuments and, teach them American history. It was his dream trip, something he'd been picturing for over a decade. But every single year he had put it off because he was terrified to spend the money. What if he needed it later? What if the market crashed and he lost everything?
So when we built Richard's income projections, we were able to show him something that was very powerful, okay? He had more than enough money to last, not just barely enough, but significantly more. And the projections show that he could certainly afford a trip to Washington, D.C., several trips over. There would be no meaningful impact on his long-term financial security. Something clicked in his mind when he saw these numbers, okay? He realized he'd basically been imprisoning himself for years. He'd held captive by his fear of actually running out of money. It was never going to happen to him, okay? He just was scared of it and just totally concerned. And the fear was all in his head, not really in the actual math of it.
So Richard called back about 2 weeks after the meeting. He told us he'd finally booked the D.C. trip. He took his daughter and all 3 grandchildren for a full week. He sent us photos throughout Lincoln Memorial, Washington Monument, Vietnam Memorial, the Smithsonian, so many different places. When he got back, he called us and said it was the best week of his entire life. The memories he made with those grandchildren were worth more than any dollar amount. Those kids will remember that trip with their grandfather forever. That's the kind of thing money is actually supposed to be for.
That's really what all of this is about. When you strip away all of the numbers and the jargon, it's not about the portfolio balance or the rate of return. It's about actually living the life you've worked so hard to earn. Richard spent 50 years working hard and saving diligently. He earned that trip to D.C. with his grandchildren many times over. He almost didn't take it because nobody had ever given him permission to spend his own money. That's really sad. Nobody showed him the math proving he could do it safely. That's what comprehensive planning is really all about.
Guys, nobody lying on their deathbed wishes they had a bigger Edward Jones statement. They wish they had taken the trip while they were healthy enough to enjoy it. They wish they had spent more quality time with family making memories. They wish they had worried less and lived more.
So our job is not just to help people accumulate wealth. That's kind of the easy part, if you can believe that. The harder and more important part is showing people that it's okay to spend some of that. Is it okay if I spend some of my money, Megan?
I mean, as long as it benefits me, sure.
So it's okay to enjoy what we've worked so hard to build over our lives. The numbers can prove it's safe, and the planning actually can secure it. So before we close, I want to come back to our estate planning offer one more time. Through our partnership with this Trust and Will company, this online operation, we're offering to do a complete estate planning documents for you at absolutely no cost. This just isn't for our current clients. This is for everybody listening to this show right now.
All right, this includes your will, power of attorney, healthcare directive, everything you need. Remember, 95% of people can use these trust and will documents and be perfectly fine. They cover the vast majority of situations people find themselves in. If you have a more complicated situation, then we at Tennessee Wealth Management will introduce you to a really good local lawyer at a super affordable fee. You can upload your existing documents for AI analysis to get feedback. And here's how Trust and Will, that process actually works in practice. They have an online questionnaire that you'll fill out at your own pace. It takes some time to complete thoroughly, but it walks you through everything step by step. The questions are written in plain English, so you don't have to have a law degree to understand it.
And their artificial intelligence technology can actually also analyze your existing estate documents. If you already have a will or a trust that was created years ago, you can just upload it for review. It's really quite simple. The AI feature will give you specific feedback and suggestions on what you might want to change or update in your existing documents. It's like getting a second opinion on your existing estate plan without paying attorney fees.
And remember, every attorney on the planet creates estate documents by editing existing templates. They do word replacement, putting your specific information into their standard document. Nobody writes these documents completely from scratch anymore. It's all template-based work. The trust and will documents are professionally drafted by attorneys and legal valid in all 50 states.
In our experience, the vast majority of the people that come into our office, maybe 95% of them, can use these documents. They're perfectly fine, okay? If you have a complicated situation, maybe a blended family, significant business asset, maybe a child that has a medical condition, something more complicated, we can introduce you to a very good local attorney. We'll help you with all of this for a very reasonable flat fee, not per hour, but for a flat fee. But for most people, this trust and will option is going to handle most everything that they need.
And I want to emphasize this one more time. All of this is completely free, no cost, no obligation, no catch, no pressure. You just need to give us a call to get started. 865-415-2070. It'll go straight to Jerry's phone. We'll answer your questions. We'll help you throughout the entire process.
There's absolutely no charge for the estate documents, the Morningstar report, or the Envision analysis, or the football. We believe if the information speaks for itself, smart people will make smart decisions. That's why we offer so much value up front without any obligation. We want to earn your trust by providing real value first.
So to summarize our 4 get 1 frees: free Morningstar report analyzing all your current investments, free Envision cash flow analysis projecting your retirement, free complete estate planning documents through Trust and Will, and of course, Erik's personally signed Tennessee Volunteers football with a display stand. No cost, no obligation, no pressure. Just call to get started.
So call me. This is Jerry.
Jerry.
Hey, 865-415-2070. And we know what the 865 spells.
Yes, it spells vol.
Balls, that's right. Rings straight to my personal cell phone. And I actually answered this little critter, assuming I'm not super busy. I got a call recently from John, who now holds the record for the longest first call that we've had from a radio show listener. I think it lasted at 1 hour, 29 minutes, 15 seconds.
But who's counting?
Yeah. Great phone call. He came to visit with us, actually had lunch with us a couple of days ago. Erik dropped by and didn't totally embarrass himself. And we basically can save him about $12,000 a year in just advisory fees if that's the route he decides to choose. But basically, our performance is still much better as well.
So give us a call and see how much you can save. Or visit theorganizedinvestor.com, where you can see everything we've talked about. The complete track record is there for anyone to verify. Transparency is simply how we do business.
And if you have questions about anything we discussed today, bring them to your first conversation. Long-term care planning, Roth conversions, Social Security timing, any of the time bombs. We call it Ask Anything in 20 Minutes because we genuinely mean it. No topic is off limits. We're here to help, not to judge.
So most people who are going to call us are not necessarily unhappy with their current advisor. At least they don't think they are. They just are really looking for a second opinion from somebody. And this Morningstar report, it shows them in black and white exactly where they currently stand. The information is power. It sounds kind of corny, but it really is. And everyone deserves accurate information about their own money so they can make an informed decision.
Well, and I think that smart decision is to call Jerry. That's the super easy way to do this, guys. And that's it for today's edition of our Organized Investor Show. Thank you for spending part of your weekend with us. I was Erik Ainge when we started. I'm still little old me alongside my wife, Susan, Megan Hubbard, and Jerry Goodman. We are East Tennessee's Financial Four from Tennessee Wealth Management. Jennifer, thanks for keeping us sounding good behind the glass. As always, catch us every Saturday at 11, every Sunday at 9, right here on News Talk 98.7. Guys, get organized, get informed, and diffuse those time bombs before they go off. And as always, go Vols. We'll see you next week.
The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Organized Investor or Tennessee Wealth Management. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Erik Ainge is a host of the Erik Ainge Show on 99.1 The Sports Animal, weekdays from 9 to noon. He is not a client of Tennessee Wealth Management, but is compensated to both promote and co-host the Organized Investor Show. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and are not intended as investment advice or solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning or before making any investment decision. And please consult legal or tax professionals for specific information regarding your individual situation. Brokerage and advisory services are provided by Tennessee Wealth Management through Prospera Financial Services Incorporated. Member FINRA SIPC. The Organized Investor is a brand name operated by Tennessee Wealth Management for educational platform purposes.